How's your week been? Mine's been pretty amazing. You wanted to get into get. I'm gonna start over with that sentence. I told you it's been a big week. Just gonna build myself a fort. Do that. Nailed it. Hello, dear ones. It's going to be a little bumpy today. That's because I'm in a hotel. My dear ones, my darlings, it is my pleasure, nay, my privilege, to say hello to you from very near, but not actually at, the House on the Rock in Wisconsin. I am just outside of the premises in a small town called Spring Green. And while it is autumn and not spring, it is very green. And so I thought I'd dress for the occasion with the green. There's no tea this evening because I am in this fine establishment. However, there is this bottle of tequila, which I hustled from the bar at the gig I did over the weekend. The bartenders were being very nice. So, hello, Sally. It's good to see you. I can't wait to try the tea that you're sending along. I'm very excited. When I get home in a few days, I'm going to make myself a very delicious cup of it, and you will be the first one to hear all about it. Again, this adorable little hotel situation is pretty nondescript from the inside, but outside, just out there, there is a chicken coop and 2 giant vegetable gardens that are going mostly unpicked, and flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers and echinacea and herbs, and just, it's glorious. And it's like perfectly coiffed yard and trees and burbling fountains made of old VWs. Like, it's fucking adorable. Like, it's not real. And they were so kind to me because I thought we weren't going to have a show this week, because I was very smug and was like, I know, I'll go to some hotel so that I can go to House on the Rock and there'll be Wi-Fi and it'll be fine. This section of Wisconsin is some sort of pocket of time dilation where there is not reliable internet via the cellular network or basic internet. So I found this, after 3 places, I found this fine establishment with its chickens and its vegetables and its flowers and its comfortable, immaculately clean room. And they gave me 2 keys and said, go ahead and try these 2 rooms, and whichever one has the stronger internet, you just pick which one you want. And that is why we find ourselves here in number 38. Hello, Dovarshu. It's been a little poopy here in New Orleans, but you guys miss so much. Oh, man, I didn't know you were in New Orleans. Much love and swift healing to you and rebuilding, my friend. I hope you aren't too adversely affected. I know it's hard for everybody, but is your power, I assume your power's back on because here you are on the internet. But thank you for being here, and thank you for checking in. I am sending story vibes to you, and I invite everybody else in the room, whether you're in the chat or not, to do the same. Okay. It's been an enormous week, like fucking huge. So big which is why I'm in Wisconsin. And I do have a story prepared. It's Speakeasy by Catherine M. Valenti, another favorite of mine. What have I been doing? What have I been doing, you ask? I'll tell you. You may notice that I'm wearing my Lauren Bacall voice today. Very sexy, very low. Oh, good. You've got your power back. Good. That means air conditioning. That means living a modern life, much more comfortable life, I hope. But we're glad you're here. My Lauren Bacall voice is brought to you by the gig that I did this weekend in Chicago at a techno music festival, which is like not my scene, but I was hired to be a stilt walker. Now, my darlings, my loves, stilt walking is fun and dangerous. And I was in a crowd with 20 other stilt walkers and thousands of people. And so it was a bit of a thing. Like, we went out, we had 5 sets. We would go out, and it was like, if you've ever been to a burn, it was like a sound camp. It was psychedelic set dressing and all techno music and live DJ sets. And we went out in these characters, and I looked like a crazy acid granny. Please check my Instagram for photo evidence of the craziness. I'm going to pull you a little bit closer. Like I said, we're adjusting. We always have to like figure out what we're doing when we find when we find ourselves on the road. So I was a stilt walker, and we had 5 sets a night for 2 nights in a row at this party, and everyone was on drugs. Everybody, like every fucking person at that festival was on drugs. And so we were supposed to look like these characters who were 10 feet tall in their trip. And so I was an acid granny, which really just means I was Clamwell the Goblin in a gray wig on stilts. And I had a spray bottle of water and another watering can full of flowers, and I would just go around spraying people and hosing them down with my spray bottle and saying, "It's important for you to moisturize. Stay hydrated." And I just yelled it over and over and over again for 2 days, and now I sound like this. So it was a lot of fun. It was crazy. And I have some blisters to show for it. It was the whole thing. Hi, Reverend Tommy. So it's been an adventure. I drove up to Cleveland first, and I went on a big adventure in Cleveland, doing some familial witchy magic work and hanging out with friends and eating amazing food. Again, please check my Instagram if you want proof of all of this, or my Patreon. You can join my Patreon, and then I write blogs about this stuff and post up photos. But like Cleveland, I'm going to go back through Cleveland. It's like no big deal. I'm going to drive there tomorrow, actually. But my whole big thing was like, all right, I'm in Chicago, and the House on the Rock is only 3.5 hours away. That may as well be spitting distance. So I decided, hi, Reverend Tommy. I decided I would come. Because, it's a 2-day journey in any other situation. And as we know, the world is ending. So I decided to come now before it burned down. Have any of you ever been to the House on the Rock before? I mean, for years, I have been told, oh, you gotta go, Carmel. You've gotta go. You're going to love it. You're going to love it so much. It's just that place for you. It's perfect for you. And I don't usually take very kindly to those kind of phrases of like, oh, you're going to love this person or you're going to love this place. Usually when people say that, I end up hating the person or hating the place because I have just like a deep vein of spite in me. It's irrational, I know that. But the House on the Rock is amazing. And not just like, oh, that's amazing. Like, you will stand in amazement below the enormous carousel spinning with red glass chandeliers and velvet and gold. And you will stand in awe and amazement in the other rooms filled with spinning 3-story high carousels filled with dolls and carousel horses and naked people spinning around with Pan and the devil and wearing fabulous hats. You will stand in amazement below the 2 elephants, African elephants. They are not the only elephants in the entire space. 2 African elephants that are rearing up and stacked on each other. I guess there were more than 2. There must have been 3. There must have been at least 3. Fuck, that's how many. I have lost track of how many elephants there were because there were so many elephants. And on them are dozens of women mannequins dressed in belly dancing clothes from the 60s and 70s. Standing in repose. And I haven't even been in the biggest room. Like, it's nutso. It's full on nutso. The organ room is a beautiful, strange place. It's pipe organs, not like hearts and kidneys organ room. Although that might be interesting. It was very red and fleshy. The organ room makes it look like there are engines powered by music. That you can sit at a large brass mechanical keyboard situation and like power what looks like an enormous dynamo that could move water or launch a ship, or it's amazing. I really like the organ room. The organ room looks like the inside of my head, frankly. Most of the rooms look like the inside of my head. I'm still processing it, and I'm going back tomorrow. I arrived so late in the day because reasons of getting out of Chicago this morning. I arrived so late in the day that they were like, you're not allowed to go through the whole space. You have to pick 2 of the 3 spaces. And so they told me to go, but that I could come back tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going back to finish the tour that I paid for. But so the first half of it is this house, because it is a house. It was some guy's house that my understanding is that he built it in spite of Frank Lloyd Wright, like to spite him. It has got this very like mid-century modern spite architecture to it. It looks like a gnome or a dwarf who liked mid-century modern style built themselves a home. Like I'm going to say that's a perfectly accurate description of the inside of the house. So because somebody used to live there. And then they just kept like building obsessively and making art and collecting things into these other buildings. But the house, I went to the house and no one else was there. It's Labor Day, my darlings. It's Labor Day. And no one else is there because they've all gone through it. I'm the last one there. I'm the last person on the boat. And so that was really special to basically walk through the House on the Rock, the actual house part of it, by myself. Unhindered, unencumbered, unsquished. That was really cool. So I'm still processing it. And I'm a maximalist. So if I'm doing this much processing, imagine what it would be like for a person who isn't a maximalist and not a Muppet. So I'm here to filter things for you so that you don't die. Google it, House on the Rock. As Sally just said, it's crazy. And I love it. I'm very happy. Okay. So other than like my crazy stilt walking gig at a techno festival, oh, I went to the Mexican Art Museum in Chicago, which was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, so cool. Highly recommend. What's funny is that their gift shop is full of Frida Kahlo merchandise, but there actually are no Frida Kahlo or Diego Rivera art in the collection. But there's some really brilliant folk artwork, and I learned a lot about after the Mexican Revolution, how folk art was used to revivify Mexican culture, separate from the colonial powers, but that it traded that, and it also took on the oppressor's habit of denying that Black enslaved people ever lived there and that they have no identity in that space. So that was an interesting thing to learn, that Black enslaved peoples and the descendants of them were denied recognition of any kind until mid 20th century or later in Mexico. I just really, really like a lot of the style of Mexican art, contemporary Mexican art, of the last 150 years. It's really chewy. You just want to sink your teeth right into it. So if you're in Chicago, they have a Day of the Dead celebration coming up, which I would love to go to, but I won't be around for. But look up the museum. It's free. You can go. It's absolutely free. Okay. Maybe my week wasn't as crazy as I thought. Now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe it's because I've actually already metabolized all of the traumatic, anxious moments of it, of like not eating properly, of thinking that I was going to fall off my stilts, of like, having to drive 40 minutes in every direction to like, it doesn't matter. All of that is gone. All we have now is the shiny bits, the stories. And by the time I get home, I'm going to have 20 new 100-mile stories. So, because I'll have driven like 2,000 miles. So I have to get on that. I have to get on my next season. I said I would do it by June. It's now September. Oh my goodness. I do have a podcast. If you're new here, my name is Carmel. I am a Glamour Hobo bedtime tale teller. I swear to God, we are getting to the bedtime tale. But we usually spend the first 20-ish minutes talking about what crazy bullshit I've been up to. Me ranting about something, which today is Merry Labor Day, the day that the American government decided it would celebrate labor because International Workers' Day on May 1st was too fucking communist. They just had to have their own thing, didn't they? But I did get to go to the Haymarket Massacre Memorial in Chicago, which was a big deal for me. That is where the American labor movement is considered to have really begun. The 8-hour workday, because of that instance. So look it up. Haymarket Massacre or Haymarket Riot. It was a very big deal. And I should be more educated about it. I don't have any facts or like numbers to give you other than like 8 people died. Somebody threw a bomb into the crowd and 8 people died. And then a bunch of people got hung who had nothing to do with the bombing because it was a travesty of justice. And capitalists wanted the anarchists who were speaking that day to be silenced. So they were tried for conspiracy, found guilty, and killed. And August Spies, one of the anarchist speakers that day, said, and I'm misquoting here, we are like a fire underground. You may stamp on some of us, but you cannot put us out. I love that. Such good imagery. Thank you, Catherine Fink, for bringing that to my attention. All right, darlings. I hope you have something good to drink, either tea or tequila. I hope that you are tucked into bed or getting ready to be tucked into bed with me. I hope you're comfortable. I hope you're wearing your nightcap. I didn't pack mine. I packed 3 other hats, but not that one. And I think it is time that we get to the reading. What say you? The warmer this tequila gets, the harsher it gets going down. If only I had some lime. Is there lime delivery? Okay. Hey, Johnny O Twitch. I'm wearing my Metatron ring. Thank you for sending that to me. All right. Let's get to it. Ugh. Like I said, it's a little bouncy today because you're literally in bed with me. And we are in Wisconsin at the Spring Green Motel. Gorgeous humans that they are. And we're going to read Speak Easy. I'm going to get myself together. All right. Go cheese. I did have a cheeseburger change my life. A well-timed cheeseburger will change your life. Turn your whole day around. And I had something called ice cream called Kitty Kitty Bang Bang, it's a vanilla ice cream with chunks of Oreo and raspberry swirl in it. It was amazing. And it's from a Wisconsin milk ice cream company. I don't know. All right, friends. That's enough of the adventures for now. I've got loads more to say, but you're just going to have to follow me on Instagram or become a patron, and you can read all about the cool shit there. But for now, we're going to be reading off of my space book, Speak Easy by Catherine M. Valenti, which is a short novella. It is her mashup of the 12 Dancing Princesses folklore with the story of Zelda Fitzgerald. All right. We're going to... I think Kitty Chaos would love the Kitty Kitty Bang Bang ice cream, personally. And I have not gotten any cheese curds yet, or as we say, any good squeak. That's good squeak. That's how you know. Tomorrow. I still have tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to get up. I'm going to be at the door at 9 a.m. when they open up House on the Rock. I'm going to do the last part of my tour. And then I'm going to drive back to Cleveland. It's like 9 hours. Pray for me. All right, you guys get to hear my weird New York accent for this story. I will keep you abreast of all of the ice cream and the custard that I eat. I will. Check-in. The first section is called Panther Sweat. Check-in. There's this ragamuffin city out east, you follow? Sittin' pretty with a river on each arm, lit up in her gladdest rags since 1624. She'll tell you she's seen it all, boy howdy. The deep down and the high up, champagne and syphilis, pearls and puke. Oh, she's cynical doll. Nothing new to her. Don't you believe it. Treat her right, and she'll open up to you, as innocent as Eden and twice as naked. She's got secrets, sure, who doesn't? Pour me a snort and I'll spill, mister. Spot me a meal, I'll show you the goods. If you go looking for it, just about halfway uptown and halfway downtown, there's this hotel stuck like a pin all the way through the world. Up on the roof of the Artemisia, it's heaven in a handbag. Green grass and golden chicken laying golden eggs under the telephonograph wires. 500 if there's one. They got Chinese ducks, the color of nose powder. 12 she-goats descended straight down from the girl who gave her tit to a titan. A couple of Jersey cows giving milk as sweet as maple syrup. Bees like gold buttons closing up the clouds. Sheep just busting out fleece that spins better than silk. Ever get drunk on a tomato? Hopped up on cucumbers? Well, then you never ate out of the garden on top of the Artemisia. And I swear up there in the sky, they got a little black bear as tame as a kitten. I hear tell he goes by Rutherford and learned himself to growl, I love you. That's how you know it's heaven. The goats don't eat the sugar peas, and the ducks don't fly off, and even the fellow with the claws knows how to love. I didn't anticipate this, but this story is about a hotel. And I'm in a hotel right now. It's these beautiful little synchronicities, dear ones. Down inside the Artemisia, it's this mortal coil all over. Earthly delights on every floor. Says hotel on the neon, but most folks live there on the permanent. Or as permanent as anything could be in a city that eat itself just to grow another block. Showgirls on 9, Jasmine on 4, starlets, malls, and debs on 7, abortionists and poisoners and bankers all shuffling together on 3, and the real heavy sugar up high. Baseball players and bootleggers and bot cops who never busted a joint of VU since amendment. All the doors stand double wide to wedge in pianos, card tables, bathtub stills. Real bodhisattvas and down-dirty despots bouncing and shaking up those red halls. Russian composers on rolly skates, outfielders tooting saxophones, tenors practicing archery on big buck glass-eyed deer heads, writers shimmying in bare feet. Poor lambs, but the rent and the drink, they do come before the shine in the shoes. Some damn body rolled out a golf course in the East Ballroom, flattened out that green with an iron like it was Pan's own shirt front. Ain't nothing out there in the city some fool didn't drag in through the service entrance. Everybody said one of these days the moon come rolling up like a dining table, COD. Up on her side, boys, move the chandeliers. You never saw girls like those glitter Janes with their sequin gowns. You never saw boys like those velvet fellas cutting their edge neither. If Eve went door to door with her apple, not a soul in the Artemisia wouldn't have grabbed it, planted a kiss on old Mama Figleaf, and had that shiny red temptation turned into Applejack of good and evil within an hour. And down below? Oh, baby, it's dark down there in the underworld. Barrels of strike me dead ski rolling in full and out empty. Stills working full time, trickling out aqua mortis like dragon through, like the fountain of youth meant to call in all her debts at once. Every hour, some long black Duesenberg slows up right into the basement, full of Canadian busthead, Mexican tea, or girls like a matched set of earrings. Down there in the shadows, the dandies got themselves a swimming pool like a lake of tears, decked out with silver lanterns on every wall and red silk cabanas full of bathhouse boys, svelte sibyls and pomade, and not a whole lot else. Those kids will have you opium or coke on a gold plate before you know you want it. Come midnight, That pool's gonna look like a Bosch painting, you follow? The water will fizz black with running mascara. 15 minutes in the basement is a lifetime up above. And the closer you get to the basement, the more you get confused on the matters of swell and dastard. Just one little floor up in the grand green gilt lobby, they fixed the series over turtle soup and Pernod. Out front, one of them hired heavies turned his gun on himself and sprayed the glass doors with Chicago paint. The basement do like her little nightcaps. Up and down between the parts of the world, the brass-stamped dumbwaiters never stop. Bellhops like archangels bringing eggs and honey from the heavenly farm to the sleepy kittens lying soft like the flood never came. The kitchen turns out 6 tries of gluttony a day, silver-domed and gold tureens. Up out of the underground kingdom flow diamond necklaces, ruby diadems, controlling stock in this and that, morphine like a quicksilver dream, laudanum like white honey, and the infinite, all-forgiving bubble sea of wet, hot, happy juice. Don't mind the iodine, darling. You hardly ever taste the kerosene. Up in heaven, they call it drinking the soda pop moon. In that jazz-hearted Midgard called the Artemisia, it's panther sweat. And down at the bottom of the world, if you ask for coffin varnish, you'll get what you're looking for. One man rules it all, even when he's not there, even when he's back home counting money and bones. Oh, everybody knows who. If you saw him on the street, you'd make a path for the shortest man in town, strutting along in his pixie-colored suits. The dapper never wears the same ones twice. Tangerine, Granny Smith, grape popsicle, cotton candy. There's belladonna in his pockets, foxglove in his lapel, and a golden pistol in the lipstick linings of his jackets. The man powders his face like a dame at town, 1/2 an inch thick if it's none. Folks say a fella sliced up his face over a dance hall girl years back, scarred his cheek something terrible. But it just ain't so. If he didn't pile it on, the boys would see he wasn't quite right. The color of his skin too blue, his ears too long. And I tell ya, if you look in his eyes too long, you can see a ring of stars like toadstools at the bottom of their black. Call him what you want. Scarface, boss, Big Daddy, king of the fairies, lord of the dead. Most everyone around here just calls him Al. 1550. There's a saying amongst showgirls, this city only knows 2 kinds of stories. A girl comes to New York and a girl dies in New York. Well, I got a story to tell. Want to make it interesting? What's the over-under on somebody leaving this book in a box? Leave your wager inside the dust jacket, kittens. Or in the chats. You have to work up a real lather to stand out among the sparklers at the Artemisia. When the kids look to be using up all the parties of the next 100 years in one summer, what's another passed-out sweetheart in silver fringe? What's one more gamine with her shoes danced to tatters? Nothing but a black bob on a pillow, a bathtub princess with her head in the sink. Unless that girl was Zelda Fair. A door popped up at the back of Zelda Fair's closet round about Thanksgiving time, room 1550. Nobody knew about the door, but everyone knew about Zelda. Well, they knew of her. The about came harder. Girl kept her lips tight on the subject of origins. Come from some nothing town in Pennsylvania or Missouri, Alabama, to make it as a dancer or as an actress or as a writer, whichever came first. She drank like a czar and sang like a broken squeeze box and danced like the sugar plum fairy cutting loose at last. Zelda was winter's best dame, pale and dark and thin, with a shimmer of Christmas in her eye, a flash of New Year on her laugh. Every Tom, Dick, and Rockefeller threw themselves at her, showered her with emeralds like green candy, sent a regular parade of dresses in long gray boxes, the very opposite of Al's impish rags. Arctic midnight, storm clouds, frost, pure 12-year-aged starlight. If the it girl didn't show up at your hop, you might as well have just had a glass of warm milk and go to bed early. And for a minute, not a little more and not a little less, Zelda was the it that never quit. Zelda F. couldn't afford that flat all on her lonesome. Oh no, 3 other sparrows had their first and last on the lease: Olive, Opal, and Oleander. Olive Bay made her scratch in the follies, high-kicking her spiked heels against the North Star till her calves looked like them faces on Easter Island. Opal Lunette sewed up shine for half the hotel to shimmy in. After a year in the Artemisia, she'd handled so much glitter, her fingertips would sparkle till she died, and then her grave dirt dazzled too. And Miss Oleander Coy had herself a blue mouth, little stains at the edges of her raspberry lips where she put her pen when she was thinking, which was always. She told the town what to do and where to go, the acid girl, the bitterest critic ever to clench a column in each fist. And God help her if any of those nice rich theater folk found out that the hard-to-please heart they're dying to win belongs to a black girl. A byline's as good as a mask. They came to town, Olive and Opal hightailing it from the boardwalks at Atlantic City and Virginia Beach. Guess they couldn't stand one more popcorn lunch between tellin' fortunes and dancing in a pretty glass box. Only Oleander was homegrown. Harlem first and Harlem last, and Harlem the only room in her heart. You might think when 4 girls get up to living together, a nice fat kitty cat just puffs into existence on their favorite chair, already fitted out with a crooked tail, a missing ear, a disinclination to catch anything not already put in a china bowl for them at supper time, and a name like Tiger or Smokey or Mr. Puss Boots. Not so for 1550. But it's true. When Ollie turned the key with a suitcase and a soup pot in her saddlebags, the apartment was already occupado. Some scoundrel left their pet behind. Back then, the Otter flat was the one without some zoo escapee noshing off the oatmeal pot. The poor beast flapped and squawked and banged around on the empty walls and fresh, clean windows, in and out of the bedrooms like a wicked boy. Whack on the ceiling, smash on the stovetop. Funniest looking bird you ever saw. Big as a kindergartner, beak like a pink scimitar, feathers on top like cream on milk, and shiny as a black satin ball gown on bottom. The ornithologist in 1523 gave them the scoop later on, and the scoop was called Pelecanus conspiculatus, the perceptive pelican of the southern hemisphere. And they did name him Mr. Puss Boots. And this is where I'm going to pause to tell you that southern hemisphere pelicans are fucking terrifying. They are huge. They are enormous. They are full of ancient wisdom and hatred and spite. They are dangerous looking. And they move very strangely, like a drone over the water, like someone is operating some sort of robot from far away and you don't know why, and it's dead quiet because they make no noise. I have seen Southern Hemisphere pelicans up close when I was in Australia. They are prehistoric. There is a reptilian part of my own brain that goes, no, thank you. No, I'll be over here. A safe distance behind a tree. No, thank you. Basically, a pterodactyl. Room 1550 was only ever quiet from 3:30 a.m. to just around 5, when even those four had to show their necks to sleep. Then it was Olive first to the clock, singing scales around her toothbrush, up and stretching her long legs on the stick of hickory she'd bolted to the kitchen wall while sucking down black coffee with one hand and reading the latest book Ollie had told her redeemed the whole idea of writing a story from start to finish with the other. Puss Boots stretched with her, his neck, his bill, his long legs, but never his wings. Careful as a girl fresh out of finishing school, him being so big that opening up his great fat wings would knock over the milk jugs, the phonograph, the teacups, the side table near the sofa, and probably the sofa too. Somebody trained that pelican to be downright dainty. Opal hit the tile next, still mostly asleep while she fed a whirl of silk through her rat-a-tat machine, chasing a river of thread through the teal. Ollie punched in with the cymbal whack of her typewriter by the alley side window, while a happy neon sign 6 stories down, flashing Hobart and Sons fine smokables, got its purple light all tangled up in her eyelashes. And sooner or later, all this racket would thump Zelda Fair out of her linen, wandering about naked as a painting and straight to the gin jar. The Artemisia's favorite breakfast. By 8 a.m., the bellhop, just as bright as a rooster in his cap and brass, would ding the bell with fresh eggs from the rooftop and a pot of honey on account of he being sweet on all 4 of them, but one in particular. See if you can guess. Zelda boiled them up hard for her sisters in toasted bread, if they had any, over the gas range, yawning like she might get her mouth around the whole world. Oh God, I'm so tired. It's been a big week. And before she laid out the 1550 blue light special, she'd say, now there'll be no more Zelda mummying you once I find my goodies, my darling O's. You'll have to eat them raw. That was how Miss Fair called whatever talent she would soon, can't be long now, turn out to have locked up in the bottom of her. Her gentleman friends laughed and patted her hair and told her not to fuss about it. She was perfect at being Zelda, and they'd keep her in eggs and diamonds forever. But not our Z, not her. She wanted to be good. Not just good, but good at something. She coaxed her goodies like a fussy cat, whispering for them, kissing for them, leaving out milk in the hall. She tried something new every Tuesday so that she couldn't possibly miss her goodies when they showed up. This week was sonnets. She wore 14 bracelets on her right arm and drizzled her poems in honey over her darling's morning toast. Last week was lion taming. A beardy fella down on the 5th floor who owned 3 entire separate theaters below 50th Street kept a big old circus cat named Marlowe, who still trotted the boards for the odd Tempest or Midsummer or any show cheap enough to rely on a grandpa lion snoozing upstage left for excitement. Zelda put her head in Marlowe's mouth and took it out again, over and over again. Marlowe sat patiently on his green velvet armchair like the cat was at a dentist. He was an awfully good sport about it, but she couldn't call it a triumph. Zelda was viciously honest with herself. Can't say you're a lion tamer when the 4-legged carpet's already tamed. He'd bit her once when he fell asleep with her still using his tongue for a pillow, and his poor jaw just went slack. Didn't hurt a bit. She just pried herself loose, curled up between his paws, and helped herself to his nap. Miss Fair put her head in all kinds of things last week, I'll tell you what. That reminds me a lot of the strength card for the tarot. It's a woman handling a lion with her bare hands. What's up, Vampire the Masquerade? Hello! If you're just joining us, this is the Glamour Hobo Bedtime Tales. I am your Glamour Hobo, live from very near the House on the Rock in Wisconsin, in a nondescript hotel room, which is actually quite charming on the outside. Tonight, we are reading just the beginning chapter of Speak Easy by Catherine M. Valenti. If you are nourishing the service, and I hope you are, please tip your reader. It's down there on the banner. It helps me pay for these strange and consistent adventures that I go on so that I can pack up and read to you from wherever I am and tell you all the goss. That tequila isn't getting any smoother. Oh, I still wish I had limes. Okay. The door, which we mentioned earlier, in room 1550, up and invited itself into Zelda Fair's boudoir like everyone else. Plain as you please, no different than the door out in the hallway, just smaller. Knocker and knob gleaming fine. Maybe it smelled a little like fresh paint. Maybe the keyhole was a little dinged up, like they get when their owner keeps on coming home so soused they gotta scrape that key over the brass like butter and toast before they can figure out how the grease goes. Maybe it came up to the girl's waistline, but no higher than the hip slinger length they hung back in 24. That door settled on in like anybody else. Locked itself up tight behind a curtain of icicle dresses and stockings thin as coughing. And ever since that door moved in, Zelda's checked out. One more. 1801. Tell me how you're enjoying the story, dear ones. Drop it in the chats. Up in 1801, that fellow who played Robin Hood at the Flickies threw a New Year's bash that caused fits. January was so depressing after New Year, he moaned. Nothing much slush and onion soup and shredded streamers. Can't have it. Not at the Artemisia. Let's give January a good sock in the jaw and double slug of bourbon on our way out, shall we? Robin Hood knew how to make Sherwood jangle and all the merry men shimmy till their spats popped. I'm telling you, Portuguese trapeze swinging triplets flew from chandelier to chandelier, and 4 separate barons, 1 newspaper, 1 copper, 1 railroad, and 1 baritone sax, played poker on the floor with their socks off. Some bright blood jazz daddy pounded that monster grand piano with a tiger skin draped over his shoulders, striped head on his head, teeth bouncing on his skull like his fingers on the key, while a ballerina with a missing pinky finger plinked out the high notes for him with her perfectly pointed toes. Maid Marian came with 2 flamingos named Clicket and Strawberry, 1 on each arm like a pair of bow. Even the curtains had dates. That lump in the velvet over there is none other than a lady blackmailer and a fellow whose papa started a whole religion. It's true. If I'm a day old. Nobody came without their sequence roaring. Hell, without Sparkle, you were as good as naked in the Artemisia. And oh yes, King Gin and Queen Whiskey and their little bouncing baby Champagne showed up first and left last. Screwing in the bathroom, dancing in the tabletops, giggling on the rug. Now, You know those royals weren't supposed to show their face in company back then. Some fine little dandies out in Washington waggled their fat little fingers and said, "Don't you go doing that nasty old thing mankind's loved better in babies since before the Egyptians ever heard of eyeliner." And we crossed our fingers behind our backs and said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Fancy Hats. You sure do know what's best for us." And as soon as those temperate backs were turned, out came every flask and jug and barrel and milk bottle upturned down every gullet. Nobody drank like we drank. Not since beer was new and Scotch was still some ambitious Pete Boggs pipe dream. The second, it wasn't allowed. Liquor turned magic on us. Sweeter, stronger, bitterer, better. I suppose that might have been the wood alcohol, but it didn't matter. Screw opium. Snuff can go hang. Who can get me a beer? A little rum, mister. How about a swallow of red wine? For my nerves, you understand. We chased it like leprechaun gold, chased it down alleys and up 6, 10, 13 stories, chased it out of the city and underground. Every granny who didn't think twice about her evening sherry in 1919, in 1920, knew somebody who knew somebody and might shank somebody with her sewing scissors if she didn't get her bottle on the sharp. If it could rot, we made it booze. Peaches and limes and cherries and apples and gasoline and iodine and Lysol and the wood off the church pews. Slurp it up, call it friend, hold it tight, keep it safe. But in the Artemisia, you could always get a nip of the good stuff. Something real. Absinthe, Pernod, Lillet, Cabernet, Rum Louisiane, however many malts would please you. Gin that had once actually met a juniper tree. Al kept it coming and nobody asked him, and his only rule was, share. Be warm, be innocent, open your everything, speak easy, share. Robin Hood already knew that song. Share it round, Prince John's bag, King Richard's ransom, a mason jar of slivovitz like the plums of heaven. And round it went, round a room of shimmy and shine and cigarette girls singing soulful past 2 a.m. and flamingo shit on the Moroccan rug. Boy, I'd have thought they'd crap pink, wouldn't you, Dougie? Guess not, Viv. Guess not. Just the kind of scene Zelda lived to die for. Just the kind of room she could smell winding up before the first cocktail cocked. She was there. Old Robin Hood would have turned in his tights if Miss Z had put on cold cream and curled up with the amazing stories and a warm cup of milk. She sauntered on in just as the jugglers got going. Her bob so perfect it could have cut her cheekbones. Wearing one of Olive's dresses, a spangled blue cupcake that showed her thighs all the way up to her soul. She kissed Robin Hood. She kissed Maid Marian. She kissed the lady blackmailer and the prophet's son and the piano player and the ballerina and one of the flamingos and 3 different poor boys who'd never see their plays on stage. And by 10 o'clock she was lying in the sideboard, sparkling knees drawn up to her chin, salmon tarts near her head and pineapple upside-down cake near her feet, sleeping hard as that sad sack who pricked a spindle when the world was young. This is a reminder that this is a short story by Catherine M. Valenti called Speak Easy. It is a mashup of Zelda Fitzgerald meets the 12 Dancing Princesses. One more. 2064. Who runs it all? Who built this cuckoo clock world ticking away on the nights on 72nd Street? Oh, darling, that's the Copper King's palace. His favorite daughter and the only one who still loves him, even the littlest bit. Caspar Anson Slake, whose daddy never met a mountain he couldn't suck the copper off, or a soul he couldn't find a way to hating. Couldn't stand children, Papa Slake, his own least and last. I heard he left his cash to Caspar because everyone else pissed him off so hard and so regular, he only made a will once he figured the best way to sucker punch somebody or 9 on the way out. Papa S. twigged to his middle son's ambitions of running off to Switzerland to make clocks in a cave in the Matterhorn of some hogwash, while the eldest and youngest wanted to be CEOs, the way fine folks used to want to be emperors. Fine and dandy. Caspar got the whole sandwich, along with a postscript saying if he chucked it to his brothers, the church would clean up and they'd all be left asking after soup downtown. The outside of the Artemisia preens with copper, polished like a penny in a loafer. Caspar sits in his penthouse like a roasting hen, clucking over the only clock he'd ever set to ticking. Named it for his baby sister who went red in the face and died at 7 months old, rather than say one word to that family. His wife sits up there too, Pearl de Augusti y Candela, this tiny 22-year-old spit of a Cuban Catalan child, the most sculpted face in New York for about a year, give or take. She's justice at City Hall, St. Barbara at St. John's, Spring in a seashell at Central Park. Rumor goes her uncle's a duke in Spain, or was it a baron in Italy? Caspar had 45 years on his ticket and a hanker for the face he saw on the Statue of Temperance outside his favorite Scotch and Cockery Club. The only thing he really liked about his daddy's money was how nobody ever said no to him anymore. You know how this song goes. Man says Mary, and just like the worst magic trick in the world, bang, smash, a girl's wearing white, even though it's never been her color. Girl Pearl had about 1,000 sisters, all living it up better than she knew how, fucking silent film actresses and boxing and piloting airplanes just to show girls could do it too, sucking the world out of an egg cup while Pearl stewed in her birdcage, missing her sculptors, hating her kid, whining, puking little Cass, who never asked to have parents who only read about love in books. Pearl was only nice to Cass on Tuesdays for an hour, between 4 and 5, when she gave him chocolate and read to him from a big old fairy book full of stories about bad mothers. Don't you hate her already? I sure do. All her husband's animals made her sneeze. Oh, Mr. Slake up there started the policy on pets in Artemisia Apartments. First, it was a Mongolian hunting eagle by the name of Ogedi, who naturally had to have his own bedroom. Honestly, woman, do you expect a bird like that to sleep in a coop on the roof like an idiot pigeon? Then she had to suffer a couple of red foxes relaxing on the fainting couch, and later in little Cass's bed. Then came the peacock and the bobcat and the baby black bear. But once Gogol the jaguar moved in, Pearl threw a fit you could hear in Harlem, the great diaspora. He kept growling, I love you, back at Pearl the whole way up to the roof, and she wanted to give in, but she just couldn't do it. A trombonist took in the flamingos. A raggedy lion, already paid for but not yet landed, was quietly rerouted to Caspar's buddy Wiley Hatchet down on 5, where he let girls practice taming him, if they asked nicely. Caspar's 3 seals ended up in the lobby fountain, splashing around and barking at the buttresses. Oh my God, could you imagine? Could you imagine? I did once go to a hotel in Memphis, Tennessee that has a duck parade, which is crazy. There are ducks that live on the roof, and there's a man who's in charge of it, and the duck. Who's the person at the front of the line of a parade? Major domo? Unclear. Anyways, they put them in the elevator and they bring them down to the lobby, and there's like a 2-level fountain that's really big. And then the ducks waddle on a red carpet up to the up to the fountain, and then they get in and they like swim for a minute, and then they get out and they go back up the elevator. And I am not exaggerating to you. Hundreds of people show up to watch this happen. Hundreds. It happens every single day. God, what is the name of that hotel? The Peabody? I think it's called the Peabody. I got very drunk in that lobby. I met a lot of strangers in that lobby. Anyways, but Pearl was stuck with Ogadai and Gogol and the foxes, who loved little Cass like a chicken bone. The kidlet named them Boo and Roo. Caspar plumped for Hannibal and Hasdrubal, but his boy didn't care and couldn't say those damn words anyhow. Pearl's writing a book. Slowly, carefully, in the corners when nobody can see her, in the wee hours when nobody's bawling for her. It's not a good book, but it sure is fun to read. Pearl doesn't have the knack of changing what happens to her into something brighter, wilder, thicker. She doesn't know the trick of cutting up what really happens and stitching it together with what didn't or couldn't or shouldn't have happened, a rat-tatting of selvage edge of time so that this thing that went down when she was in pigtails sits right up flush next to the hurt she found when she was 20. She can only call things straight and flat, as they are, in the order that they ordered. No piddling around. Her protagonist is Miss Paige Stokes, who has a husband called Carlisle and a kid named Little Lie. Her book is a house with glass walls, and her the only cat inside. Now, that sort of style is all right in moderation, but the trouble is Pearl was a society lady now. The Copper Queen. The Copper Queen can't swear. No, sir. She can't spit or get drunk or wander around her own damn flat naked or laugh too loud. Her sculptors let her do all that and loved her better than she ever did. Good Lord! But who doesn't love a Minerva half-cracked on bourbon telling dirty jokes and laughing at her own farts? Christ, she missed farting. The man who made her temperance used to let go like a stevedore, and she'd blast right along with him. Now she has to hold it in until she's alone, and she can let her tiny little society stinkers out in a locked powder room, giggling like her rear could tell jokes. So she held it in all day. This swearing, the spitting, the drinking, the farting, until she could be alone with her book, and it all came whistling, bubbling, splattering out. Mrs. Rockaway joined Pearl de Agosti Candela Eastlake for tea every second Wednesday. On this hot-trotting subject, Mrs. S. writes, Mrs. Rockaway came round for tea at 3:15 in the afternoon. She asked to see little Cass, but he thinks she smells like dead squirrels and eagle's ass, so he wouldn't come out of his room. Finally, my boy shows some sense. Mrs. Rockaway said her son is starting Yale in the fall. Mrs. Rockaway says Steele is king, and they get richer every time they take shit. Mrs. Rockaway is fucking her son's long-cocked friend from the rowing squad, but she thinks I don't know. Mrs. Rockaway is a hell bitch with a brain like old steak, and her teeth are yellow. Truthfully, she's only here to get her bi-weekly booze, but Mrs. Rockaway feels obligated to me socially because Caspar crossed pissed streams with her husband sometime before the dawn of man. Additionally, she is a fat bear cunt of a whore who knows I love smashing cakes in the icebox and wants to annex them. Nothing goes with a hippo's serving of Canadian gin like chocolate cake. And the Yale rowing squad. Lux et veritas, wouldn't you say, Mrs. R.? Mrs. Slake looks up from her typewriter, a spectacular custom job, blood-red Underwood with a mother-of-pearl keys and a carriage release that used to be part of some Swiss pirate flintlock Caspar had lying around like it was no big thing. Pearl treats her Underwood like a car. After all, it's the only thing that gets her anywhere. The jaguar watches her from the top of the armoire that holds Caspar's collection of Bronze Age knives. His eyes shine in the evening like tumblers of rum. All right, that's it for tonight. We will stop at 1450. It is the Peabody. The Duck Parade is crazy. I know. Darlings. Here we are. Our time this week has come to a close. I'm so glad I got to see you. I thought it wasn't going to happen. I tried very hard. It took 3 hotels to find somewhere with Wi-Fi that was strong enough to do the show. I know it's still low quality, but I'm really glad that we got to dig in a little bit deeper to Speak Easy by Catherynne M. Valenti. Please buy it from your local bookseller. And Catherynne M. Valenti has a Patreon as well. Her wordplay is fucking flawless. And it is like the Olympics reading her books. So maybe I shouldn't have had tequila before I started reading that. I'm heading back to... Where am I going tomorrow? I'm going back to the House on the Rock tomorrow. Please check out my Instagram and my TikTok to see more about that, the adventures of that. It won't be posting in live time because there is no cell phone signal at the House on the Rock. And then I will be heading through Chicago and back to Cleveland before I head back to Richmond, Virginia. I'm glad you like the show on the road, even though it's not as colorful as the egg, as my home turf. But I get to make a pillow fort with all of these big fleshy pillows. And I took a very long, very quiet, very hot bath earlier. So I am feeling extra taken care of. Thank you all, darlings. It's my pleasure and my privilege to be here with you as usual. Big ups and big thanks to Ren Adventures, who's the sponsor for this month. Remember, they are still taking reservations and deposits for tours in 2022, D&D tours in 2022 to England and Scotland. And my darlings, remember, you are a member of the Glamour Hobo Nation, and today's show is very much on the Glamour Hobo Nation spectrum. It is a glamour that this came together. It was actually very hard work to make this actually happen, and we are hoboing together. My season is getting very, very busy with work and shows and projects. Please stay in touch, and remember, it's Labor Day, and labor is important. Your labor is important, and so is mine. Artwork is work. Sex work is work. Support your labor rights and union activists. Kisses, darlings. Good night.